Hi folks, welcome to the Inquisition. I know we're all scheduled supposed to have Lady Can on today, but unfortunately she had to cancel just through some work related incidences. So it will be just myself and Simon, and we'll put Simon through the ringer and see how he is and how he did Warhammer. Alright, Taver, thank you for joining. Alright, ADHD minis, hope you're well, mate. Thanks for joining as always. Just waiting for Simon now, and he'll be on. And don't worry, we will have Lady Kane rescheduled to come back on at some point when she can. Just unfortunate. It's just one of those things. How you doing today, ADHD? You doing well? What you're all working on? If you've got any questions for Simon Chase, please don't hesitate putting them in the chat. And we will ask Simon away. As always, this episode is sponsored by Bolts Storm Wargaming, where you can buy the finest bolts, the finest storms, the finest wars, and the finest games you can buy. Money can buy in good old Sunny Week, which I thought was a vegetable, but apparently it's some English town. And also a vegetable. Right, Simon, I sent you an invite. Accept my invite, and we'll see if that can get you in quicker than waiting 4 days for it to join. Oh, what a day. Done my back in, so my back isn't playing the best, so I'll be moving about quite a bit, just trying to get myself comfortable. Also got my head. Nice wee fresh cut just for you folks. And I'll hide it again. Oh mate, washing machines are our balls. Especially because when fucking one of the pipes are always smaller than the other one. Why can I never get people on? And remember folks, this Sunday, hopefully we have Chris Tester on as well. Audible narrator, voiceover actor. Can't wait to ask him how he got the Dark Souls 2 gig. He was a couple of characters in Dark Souls 2. And he also paints and collects as well. Looking on his YouTube channel, so he'll hopefully be joining us on Sunday as well. And that'll be the last of the Legends series until the new year, and then we'll bring it straight back in New Year. I think we've got Pat from the painting phase coming on, so that'll be good to have him on. Always takes forever, man. So I hope you all enjoyed Sunday's show with Duncan Rose. It was probably one that we'd all been looking forward to since we started this as well. As with all our special guests, it was really good to have Duncan on. As I said, it was 2 Duncans, one Casey. Alright, Alexi, alright, Pedro, alright, Fuzzy, Opossum, Endercraft, and one other. Alright, Simon, be good, mate.
I'm alright. That was complicated again.
Yeah, it takes its time, man. For some reason, it takes its time to load up for this now, but it could just be because of the weather and stuff. How you doing yourself this week, mate? How you enjoying your week off?
It's just cold, isn't it? Cold and wet and horrible. Shit.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
So I'm a funny looking Lady Kane. I don't look a lot like Lady Kane, but got to go with me, haven't we?
Yeah, and I've got a slight confession to make as well. Well, so I had actually double booked this week by mistake. Just a pure miscommunication. Because when I said that Duncan Rhodes was cut, after the Duncan Rhodes had finished, I said that Lady Kane was coming on Wednesday, and Dasmall, I ended me right away going, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure." He says, "You said that I was on in the 6th," and then when I checked back in the calendar, I'd actually forgot to say I'm about being on the 13th. So yeah, apologies, Dasmall. I see you're on the video, mate, and I do apologise for that.
He's just come in just to curse you. It's his birthday as well this Friday. He did this on his birthday.
I know. But he's on next week. He said that his wife switched some things around, so whatever he was going to do last week, he's doing this week. But again, apologies, Dasmall. That was totally Casey's fault, not my fault at all, because Casey's not here. So Simon, how old were
Yes.
you? How old were you when you got into Warhammer? What was the very first mini that you painted?
How old was I? Well, I didn't really get into. I got into Dungeons and Dragons first. That was my gateway into Warhammer. So the first miniature I've ever painted was a Dungeons and Dragons miniature, but made by Citadel Miniatures when they were making Dungeons and Dragons miniatures under license, and it was a ice dragon. That was the first mini I ever painted. And it was all metal. It was made by Citadel Miniatures, but it was made for Dungeons and Dragons. This was 86, I think. About 86, yeah. 1986. So I think just after second edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle. And then from there I got into Warhammer.
So do you still have that dragon kicking about? Do you know what it is, or would you ever go back and try and revisit it, or find it on eBay and try and paint another one?
It's probably somewhere in the shed in my mum and dad's house. It was enamel paints that I was using. Acrylics weren't so big then. And it's probably got paint that's probably 2 inches thick on it, so it could take some stripping. And it's probably got actual lead in it as well, because back then they were still putting lead into metal miniatures.
Just don't go sucking it. You probably did suck it. That's probably why we're all mental.
That's what my dad always used to say when we were kids, that we shouldn't, that they were dangerous, that they were toxic, and we shouldn't put them in their mouths. Not that we ever did, but my dad was obsessed with us all getting lead poisoning through our fingers and stuff. But the lead content in it wasn't that high. As long as you didn't try and eat them, you were all right.
So I've never painted a metal miniature. What's it like painting a mental? Sorry, what is
A
it like
mental
painting?
miniature.
What's it like painting a mental figure and also a metal figure compared to like resin or hard plastic?
It's just a different feel. The paint flows a bit differently. Um, I mean, that was all we ever did when I was a kid. That was all we had. We only had metal miniatures. The first proper plastics for your RTB01s in 1987, the Space Marines. So we were really metal miniatures was basically what we painted. Plastic was the weird stuff that we didn't know what to do with. But it's just it's obviously the weight of the miniature. It's a lot heavier. It is the way the paint flows on the miniature. Um, it's it is. I wouldn't say it's worse to work with than plastic. Plastic's probably easier to work with. It's just different. But until you paint one, it's really hard to describe what the difference between metal and paint. You've also got obviously more of an issue with things like cracking on metal miniatures. Paint tends to crack and literally come off in clumps on metal miniatures. Well, there's a blast from the past. Chappers Miniatures has just joined. I haven't seen him for nearly 3 years. I didn't even think he was still on Instagram. Hello, Chappers.
So for anybody, thanks for joining to everybody who's joined so far. If you've got any questions for Simon, pop them in the chat and we'll try and get to them as soon as we can. So what would you say is your favourite army currently that you're working on or that you've painted with in the hobby?
Favorite army in 40k is Custodians. I just love the miniatures. They're very, very easy to make look good as well. As far as new armies, obviously I'm in the middle. I've been in the middle for about 8 or 9 months trying to get World Eaters done, which is just going slowly because I hate painting trim. I get really bored really quickly at painting chaos stuff. I really like what it looks like when it's finished, but I get really, really, really bored of painting it. Nids coming up, and I've got loads of Necron stuff I want to revisit. I'm going to try and build and paint a Necron miniature all in one day tomorrow, because they're usually pretty quick schemes to get down, just to get myself back into the habit, because I haven't really painted anything for about a fortnight, because for one thing or another, stuff working on the house, being ill, the weather, having to be places, I haven't really had a chance to pick up a paintbrush. So I'm going to try and dedicate tomorrow to painting something just to get myself back into it. And I think it's going to be a Necron just because they're quite easy to paint.
So like you were saying there that you've been painting since like 1985. Have you ever like taken a kind of hiatus at any point and get back into it or anything like that? Or have you always just been doing miniature hobbying?
I think it's like everything you get into it as a kid. You get into it as a child. You grow up to get to about 15, 16. You meet girls, you go out, you discover nightclubs and pubs and alcohol, and you vanish from it for about 10 years. And then you end up going back into it. I was sort of always reading stuff. I had a White Dwarf subscription, which I carried on all through my 20s. So I was up to date on what was going on in the hobby. But I think from about 1996-ish through to about 2000 and something, I didn't really play or anything much. I just kept like dipping in and out of it. Just because you just do, you get other interests, you get other stuff going on. As you say, you discover the opposite sex. You discover that beer tastes nice and makes you feel funny. You discover that women feel nice and also make you feel funny. And then you sort of, it sort of falls by the wayside. But I was always sort of keeping my hand in, reading White Dwarf, picking up the odd game, then probably having a couple of games with some mates and then shelving it for however long and then coming back to it. So I have had breaks, but on and off, not really. It's just as and when the news took me, as it were. I'd sort of not touch it for a year, and then I'd be out in Nottingham or Derby or wherever, where the only Games Workshops were when I was that sort of age. And I'd just pop into Games Workshop and I'd end up buying some paints and a mini, and then I'd do that, and then I probably wouldn't come back to it for 6 months. It's only really been probably in the last 4 or 5 years that I've been back into it in a big way, where I've been doing it all the time.
So, like, what would you say has been your favourite edition that you've played of Warhammer then?
40k, third. I've still got very fond memories of third. First was Rogue Trader, was more like a role-playing game. So you know, it even recommended you had a GM on it. It was very small numbers of miniatures. You had nothing really bigger than a Land Raider. Land Raider was a massive kit. And I'm talking the original Land Raider that came in 2 in a box, not the later one we got in, I think it was 2000. But that was the biggest kit you could get for a long, long time. Second edition, they tried to change it to be more of a battle game, and it wasn't great. I didn't like it. So, but in third edition, I remember all the posters and everything went up in the local Games Workshop for third edition. It was going to be this big thing, and it came out in a box set, and the rule book was all had really nice graphics on it, and you had the Dark Eldars when Dark Eldar first appeared. It was like, oh, who are these? Dark Eldar? What a Dark Eldar! But I just thought that was the one that I played the most of, and I think that was the one for me that made the most sense, because it was very similar to Fantasy Battle at the time. But there was things like you couldn't go above weapon skill 5. This is when your weapon skill you rolled on a table, so it wasn't like a 5+ to hit. So the highest weapon skill you could get in the game was like 5. I think Dante was 6, which was like extraordinary. And that's when you started getting codex proper. We had a few codexes in second edition, but that's when they really started going into the codex model. And it just I think that's when, for me, that was when the buzz took me again. That was when I really got back into it. It was around third edition. And I got friends to play it, and that's the one I got the most memories of. And third edition was what they based 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th on. So it lasted a good old time. That core rule set did. That rule set lasted for about 17 years. So, you know, and 30k Horus Heresy, that's still based on the third edition rule set as well. So for me, it's a really good rule set. I think by 7th it did need a change because it was getting really bloated. But for me, third edition is still the one, because that's what got me back into the hobby big time.
And would there be any like armies that you wouldn't play or collect or paint? Or is there anything out there that you just don't like the look of in the 40k world?
I don't like Tau. I didn't like NIDs until they revamped them, and now I've got NIDs. I always said I'd never have NIDs. I'd never had Tau, but I've ended up getting NIDs. I don't think I'll ever get Tau. I just don't. I don't feel them. I remember when they launched. I just thought, what's this? It's mechs. They don't look anything like anything in the 40k universe. They don't. I don't like the infantry. I'm not keen on the mech suits idea. I just didn't like them. I've never liked the aesthetic. I've never liked the idea of purely shitty armies either. I'm a very melee focused player. That's how I like to play games. I like to get into the thick of it and hit stuff. And Tau don't do that either. They've got stuff that looks like it should, and then it doesn't. So I didn't like it. I didn't get it. I've never liked Tau. I never will like Tau. No offense to any Tau players. They're just not my play style, and they're definitely not something that I look at and think, ooh. I just look at it and think of anime, and I don't fit anime into 40k, if that makes sense.
Okay, so were you happy enough when they brought the squats and the Loops of Voltan, and then were you happy?
I was really looking forward to Votan because when we were kids. When the Imperial Guard dropped for 40k, they also dropped squats at the same time. So all the rules then were in a White Dwarf, and then later on in a 40k compendium. So we're still talking back end of Rogue Trader. We're talking pre-second edition, and before all we really had was Orcs and Space Marines as a big model range. So when they dropped the Imperial Guard, I started collecting the Imperial Guard, and my brother started collecting the squats. And I really, really liked the minis. I really like the idea of dwarves in space. I like the trikes. I like the little Dumpty exosuits. So I was really, really excited that they were making a comeback. I was gutted that they disappeared. Um, I know the reasons why they disappeared, because they didn't think the range was coherent and fit with the rest of the range, which is fair enough. So when I saw the preview model last year, was it last year? Was it April last year? I was really excited. I thought, brilliant. We're going to get trikes. We're going to get bikers with cigars. We're going to get guys with ponytails and shades. It's going to be brilliant. And then I was really disappointed with what they brought out. Didn't look like squats to me. So yeah, I was excited for them. I wasn't excited when I saw them. They're probably another army that, unless they get like a serious range refresh, like it's supposed to be a wave 2 coming in. If the wave 2 is really good, then I might consider getting some. But right now, they're not on my shopping list. But they were originally. When I first saw they were coming back, I was really excited, and I was determined I was going to play squats. And then I saw the models, and I wasn't over enthusiastic for them. And then obviously we had all the rules controversy with them because they were basically busted on release, which didn't help.
Yeah, I think they were very overpowered, weren't they, when they first came out? Like, they were unplayable, is that right? They were just too strong?
It was just the grudge mechanic, which in theory is a really good mechanic. It was just being able to like stack grudge tokens on. You had that Iron Here champion who like a 1 wound model, I think, a 1 or a 2 wound model, but he was only like a 60-point model, and he could like one shot greater demons. And it was just very, very. They just busted. They was very, very busted. I mean, it's busted that pre the codex coming out proper, when we just had the box set and the codex and the box set, German, Canadian ITC tournaments were banning them. So you just know
Yeah.
straight away then something massive. And then that's the only times Games Workshop's ever actually come out and apologised for a rule set, which shows you just how broke they were. But it goes back to how they balance stuff in GW. It goes back to the fact they were balancing those against pre-nerf NIDs and pre-nerf Eldar, which were 2, again, really powerful codexes. And they were balancing those against codexes that had come out that were really overpowered anyway. So they came out massively overpowered. It's part of the problem. It's part of the problem with the codex system is the way they do this. I don't know if we'll see it as badly in 10th, but 9th was really, really bad for codex creep.
Yeah, like like as you know, you know me, Simon. Like I don't play. I've not played much Warhammer of any edition. Like 10th is probably the only edition I've ever played. So like when I think it was what, ninth when the Voltan came out, and I heard there was quite a lot of, as you said, a lot the armies were getting banned, and a lot of countries weren't letting them participate in competitions because of how overpowered they were. And as you say, if they're one-shotting demon princes, like really, what's the point in turning up and getting your ass felt here by a bunch of angry wee Scotsmen? Really, do you know what I mean?
Yes, Paul, my head does go to the top of the hat. Look. Yeah, I just think GW's business model, without going, oh, let's get into it, fuck it. GW's business model is very geared towards competitive play, and that's not their customer base. As simple as it seems, it's not their customer base. There's probably 95% of their customer base are people like me and you
Mm-hmm.
who might go down to a local club or a local shop on a weekend or a day in the week and have a few games or have a game with friends. Or maybe they've got a setup in their house and on a weekend night they'll invite some mates round, they'll have a couple of beers and they'll roll some dice. That's their player base. That's who the majority of people who play this game, that's who they are. Your competitive scene is very, very, very small, but yet everything is geared towards competitive play. And you don't want that's fine, but that's 5% of your market, which is why we get all these FAQs, why we get all these data slates, why we get these codexes that are nerfed, because it's geared towards a very small percentage of their customer base who enjoy competitive play, which is fair enough, but most of us enjoy casual play or maybe narrative play. So we might think up a scenario for a game and play a game, or we might, like if I go to an event, it's always a narrative event. There's a competitive element there because there's points to be scored, and there is, when you're playing round robin games against other people, but there's an underlying narrative or these custom games. That's what I find fun. I find meeting new people and playing games like that a lot more fun than going out there and trying to earn points for some ITC ranking, or so I can take a plastic trophy home, or win a box of miniatures, or get my name in in White Dwarf or whatever. That's a very small. That's a very small percentage of the customer base, and the most of them are just casual players, and that's how I play, and that's how I enjoy playing. I really don't care if I win or lose a game, as long as I don't get totally smashed. Nobody likes getting completely and utterly spanked off a table. But as long as I've played a game and lost, and it's been a fun game, and we've had a laugh, and there's been some moments we can talk about later over a few drinks or whatever, or you know, that's all that matters to me. This game's supposed to be fun. We spend a lot of money on it, and it's. I
Mm-hmm.
think the competitive side of it spoils it. When you've got a unit that you like, you bought it because it's cool. You bought it because you enjoy how it looks. You put your heart and soul into painting it, and it might not be the best paint job in the world, but you're really happy with it. And then something that you get a data slate, and that unit's now unplayable, and you might as well put it back on the shelf because you're never going to use it. And that's all off the back of competitive play.
Yeah, but it's not just Warhammer that you play. Like as I don't know, like because you're part of the Inquisition, like you play Star Wars Legion as well. Like, how's that different from playing Warhammer aesthetically? Is it a much quicker game, uh, free flowing?
Star Wars Armada is
Sorry,
it's
Armada.
easier to learn. The rule set's a lot simpler. You get everything you need to play when you buy a model. So when you buy a model, you get the cards for the model, you get the rules for the model. Um, everything you need to play is in that box. It's based on a 400 point system. And if you think that big capital ships are about 120 points, so you don't need a massive model count for it. So comparatively, it's cheaper than 40k or GW stuff. It's fleet to fleet combat. It's alternate activation, so it's not you go, I go. Um, it's a lot more tactical. So the rule set's a lot more simple. It's a lot simpler to pick up. But then it's a lot more tactical. There's a lot more thinking involved because you can't stop your ships. You've got to fire then move. You don't move then fire. So positioning is key. Um, it's just a lot of fun, really, because if you're into the Star Wars, especially, everyone's represented. You've got character cards for everybody in the film, people in the comics who you didn't know were popular because they aren't in the actual films. You've got all the ships from the movies in there. You've got some ships that weren't in movies but were in comics and in novels and stuff like that, in games. So you can really get yourself involved into the cinematic side of things. I really enjoy Armada. It's quite quick to play. You can probably get a 400-point game over in between an hour and 2 hours. You can get a couple of games in an evening if you wanted to. Um, but so yeah, I prefer it to 40k at the moment, just because I think it's more fun. It's easier to pick up. It's more tactical, so there's more thinking involved. So you can do one wrong move and wipe your ship out because it's probably you that's cocked up. Um, I also I've played Bolt Action a few times, which I quite enjoyed. Bolt Action was going to be what 40k was going to be on. I think it was 5th edition or 6th edition. Rick Priestley wanted to do that rule set for 40k. Games Workshop said no, so he went off to Warlord and did it there instead and made it a World War II game. Bolt Action's really good. Again, it's not you go, I go. It's random activations. Everybody's little dice for each unit goes into a bag and you pick them out randomly. Nothing starts on the board. You start off the board, so you turn one is getting your units onto the board. That's quite fast as well. Close combat's really easy to work out. Each infantry has basically got the same stats. They just got like you got veterans, regulars, and like rookies. So that's the only difference. Is it changes what they hit on and how cool they are, and how they maintain the cool and stuff. Started playing a bit of Saga, which is a historical battle game, skirmish game. That's quite good as well. Again, it's quite fast flowing. And then as far as 40k goes, I play Necromunda, which makes 40k look very uncomplicated. It's good fun. You've got small units because you have gangs. Gang are typically 6 or 7 models, depending on what faction you play. But it is based on the 40k mechanics, but there's so much more into it, so it's a lot more in depth. But it can be because you're only dealing with 6 or 7 models. So yeah, I play quite a lot of stuff other than 40k. Played a bit of Blood Bowl recently. Really, really enjoyed season 2. Blood Bowl was something when I was a kid we used to play all the time. I used to play Blood Bowl more than anything else when I was a kid because I loved it. I was a big American football fan, so this made that transition. And then the season 2 stuff, the new version is really good as well. So yeah, I played quite a lot of games at Bolstorm, and they used to be purely 40k. But when I started going there, they started luring you into other systems.
So, like, just touching back on the Star Wars Armada stuff, do you paint the models yourself, or are they already pre-painted? Like, do you have to build them and assemble like you would with the Warhammer stuff, or is it
so they come pre-painted. You can repaint them if you want. There's nothing against. So they come pre-painted. You basically get the stand that you build. You build the stand, put all the dials and stuff on it, because most ships have got 2 variants. So that, for instance, is a Victory 2, and it also comes as a Victory 1. All the capital ships are pre-painted. The only things that aren't pre-painted are these things, the fighters and stuff. So they all come. I think it's grey for Imperials, like a beige for Rebels, blue for Separatists, and red for Republic. Obviously from the prequels.
all right?
So yeah, so you literally just put that together, put your little things on, get your cards out, and you're good to go. So it's a lot quicker. But if you want to paint them. If you want to paint them, then you can paint them. There's a guy on YouTube called Krabok who's got a channel dedicated to all Star Wars stuff, Legion, X-Wing, Armada. He repaints all this stuff, so you can do it.
So we've got a couple of comments here from the chat, mostly from Alexei Stevanov. Great observation regarding the competitive versus fun that underpins people's motivation for playing. He then further explains, goes, to what degree does the year in which you joined the hallway influence this? Not 100% sure what he means by that. And to what degree does this push new players away from Games Workshop to other systems? Now, I think with everybody, apart from maybe yourself, you start to be Dungeons and Dragons, but I think like everybody starts with Games Workshop and Warhammer, and then they find their own wee thing, and then branch off into that. Would you agree with that?
I think GW really took off again in lockdown because we were all stuck in the house. No one had anything to do. People wanted something to occupy their minds. And to be fair, painting's very therapeutic. It helps you calm your mind down, forget everything else, concentrate on what you're doing. For mental health, painting is brilliant. I've always advocated it. So it was something that a lot of people started doing in lockdown. Games Workshop weren't even open for the first part of lockdown, so everybody was buying stuff off eBay. When Games Workshop reopened, they were like, "Oh, look at all these sales that we can make," and then they jumped onto that. And then I think because then there was no competitive stuff going on, most people were just painting, not even playing.
Yeah.
And then once we came out of lockdown, people started playing, and I think you're the perfect example of it. You've come into it painting first. You got into 40k because you were reading a Star Wars novel you were enjoying, so you bought a Black Library novel, and that was your gateway into the models and everything else. Then you've gone and thought, right, I'll give the game a go. And then you've realised, oh, okay, so it's this complicated and it's that complicated, and everything can do this stuff, and everything's got strats, and everything unit's got special rules. And I think that can put people off. The complexity can put people off. I know quite a few people who play but not very regularly, who have decided this, especially this year, that they're going to get more into the painting and the lore side of it. They're not really into the gameplay side of it because they don't have any fun doing it. And I see that. And I think that is the spin-off from competitive, because we're always putting layers on layers on layers on layers. We're always trying to they're always trying to engineer the game so competitive players are going to have an edge, or this unit is now the meta because people then these competitive players will go out and buy 3 units of it so they can play it in a tournament. And whereas us casual players will just buy models we think looks cool. I mean, are any of us who don't play AdMech competitively ever seriously going to buy that sniper on stilts? Are we? Even if I was playing AdMech, would I buy that sniper on stilts? No, I wouldn't, because I personally think it looks awful. But it could have the best rules. It probably has got the best rules in the world, and I haven't seen the rules. It could have the best rules in the world, and it could be a meta unit, so a competitive player might buy 3 of them. But I would never, ever want to put paint on that model. So, and I think the majority of people are me. And they're going to be like, I don't like it, I'm not buying it. I don't care if it's the best unit in the game, I'm not buying it because I think it looks a bit shit. So why are we aiming stuff towards the 5% of your customer base?
I mean, like, going back to the gameplay, for somebody who's like, as you've touched on, like, who's brand new, for me, it's an easy game to understand the basic mechanics of it. You move your dice, you measure out your measuring tape, and blah 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 blah. But when it comes down to like individual units and their specialities, like for example, it took me to the 3rd game to realise that Mortarion has a 5+ feel no pain, and he also gets to choose a special ability for somebody in his army every battle round. Now that's just a learning curve. Like, every game has a learning curve, but it's just so much information to take in such a short space of time. It can be a touch overwhelming for a brand new player. I imagine it'd be the same if a limited edition and they totally change the rules for people that have maybe played it for years and all this has changed now. So for somebody coming in that's new, it is very overwhelming as well. Now, I seen somebody sent me a picture of you earlier on posing with an Age of Sigmar box. When can we expect to see you painting that box, and when will you start delving into Age of Sigmar gameplay?
No one's taken a picture of me with an Age of Sigmar box.
There's definitely, I put it on my story, there's definitely a picture of you posing beside a Age of Sigmar box in your hand. If you look at my story, you'll see it, mate.
Am I standing next to Ant? Am I in Boltstorm Wargaming at the time?
Boltstorm Wargaming, are they the people that actually sponsor our channel, by chance?
They are. They are actually my sponsors.
And where can we find this Boltstorm Wargaming place?
You can find it in Leek in Staffordshire, behind what used to be Wilco's, is no longer Wilco's. So was it there? Was I standing next to Ant?
I can't reveal my sources. As an inquisitor, I can't reveal where my sources are. I was just sent an anonymous...
Is it one of the Cities of Sigmar boxes?
It just says Age of Sigmar, and I see you were always championing against Age of Sigmar, and then I seen you with a box, and that's why I thought, you know what, we'll have him on the Inquisition to ask him why, for a man that is so passionate against Age of Sigmar, he's got a box in his hand. Are you secretly painting Age of Sigmar? Are you... Sorry folks, I don't actually know what happened there. It just disconnected for some reason. Maybe I was messing about with my phone or something, but we disconnected there. Hopefully Simon can rejoin us. Hopefully you all can rejoin us and we can get to the bottom if Simon is an Age of Sigmar fanboy. I don't know what happened there, like, Simon apparently disconnected and then I don't know what happened there. So we'll get right to the bottom. If Simon is an Age of Sigmar fanboy, he's secretly painting Age of Sigmar and he's probably going somewhere else to maybe play the game. We'll get to the bottom of this, folks. These are the questions that Inquisition asks, and we will get to the bottom of it. As Papa Nurgle is my witness. Thanks for dropping on back in, folks. Yeah, still trying to get Simon to join here. Maybe the secret's been out. Dasmall, we can interrogate you next week on why Age of Sigmar is a better game. I'm actually painting some ballista thing just now with some sort of orcs or something. I'll send you an invite there, Simon, if you want to try and accept my invite. But I've got a couple of Age of Sigmar things I'm painting myself, just as a wee palette cleanser, as they say. Oh, I think he does need to embrace it. It's just so weird, man. Don't know if it's maybe I'll send it again. Do I jump out and then try jumping back in, Simon? I'll accept your invite this time, see what happens. He's turned on his video.
I'm back.
He's back. So, Simon, you need to get
I've
to the
just
bottom.
seen that picture. You've so doctored that picture.
That's the picture I was sent.
You weren't sent that picture.
Oh,
You've got that picture. You've got
how
that
else am I going to get that picture? How else am I going to get that picture?
You've got that picture of Boltstorm Wargaming's Facebook page.
I don't have Facebook. I'm not even joined on Facebook.
That's not even a still image. That's a video.
Listen, I am not telling any lies.
How am I holding that box up like that? I'm not even touching the box because it's not me holding it, it's Ant.
Listen, that is some serious accusations you're making to a fellow Inquisitor. I haven't been on Facebook. Why would I go on Facebook to see if you've got Age of Sigmar stuff, Simon?
Well, that's where that picture's come from.
You're defending it too readily.
That was 2 weeks ago when I did the raffle draw for Boltstorm Wargaming. And that's why that I'm next to that box. It's not my box.
Not your
Somebody won it,
box.
and it wasn't me. It's not my box. I will never play Age of Sigmar. Ever, ever, ever.
You say that now, but I'm pretty sure if somebody was to offer you money to play Age of Sigmar, you would do it. We've all got a price, Simon. We all have a price.
Nah, nah. I'm not. I just not. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I like them. Apart from the miniatures, they do make really. The Age 2 miniatures are really nice.
Yeah, the
Not a
miniatures
fan of the.
are good look are good looking. Like, not that I would date them because I'm married, obviously, but they do have some good looking models. Talking about good looking models. Now we've got Fieldgrim out, we've got the Lion out. Like, is there any Primarchs that haven't been released yet that you would like to see them make?
For 40k,
Yeah,
low. Um, uh, I'd like to see Lehman Russ. I'd like to see Rogel Dawn. I would like to see Jagatai Khan. Um, as far as traitors go, let me think. I wouldn't mind seeing a Puerto Arbo. I think that'd be an awesome mini, like a massive Demon Prince in Terminator armor. I would like to see Fulgrim. I'd like to see a Fulgrim model, which I think is probably going to come towards the end of 10th. Yeah, Korax, ADHDs. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Korax. I think most of them, to be fair, apart from the ones that can come back, and the ones that haven't like been beheaded or had their shit pushed in by Horus at the end of the last book. Yeah, most of them. Apart from, I'm not particularly asked about Lorgar coming back because he wants to see that snake in the grass come back. But otherwise, yeah, most of them I'd like to see. But for right now, I'd like to see Fulgrim for the traitors, and I would like to see either Lehman Russ or Rogel Dawn for the Loyalists.
I was watching a video today on YouTube about the Lost Legions. I'm a big fanboy for the Lost Legions, and they were talking about that before the Great Crusade, there was some like massive war that they had with some species, and the rumor has it that maybe one of the Primarchs were lost to this war that they had with this kind of alien species, which I'd never heard of until I stumbled across this video, which was quite fascinating. What's your take on the lost Primarchs?
Um, Honestly, I don't think we'll ever know. I don't think they'll ever, unless there's a massive, massive demand for them financially, which I don't think there is at the moment. I don't think we'll ever know. I think it was just something that they put in the law that they thought would be funny, and it was a throwaway thing where they just put redacted onto the legions. And then it's just got a myth off of its own. They occasionally drop a bit of lore, like Lehman Russ might mention them in a Black Library book, or someone might mention, or Primarchs might discuss them in passing. But I don't think it'll ever really be expanded upon. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
it should be either, because I think whatever we get, if they did decide, yeah, let's do it, let's release the Lost Primarchs, let's release the Lost Legions, I think whatever we get will be disappointed, because I don't think it'll ever be as good as what we've built up in our heads.
Yeah, I mean, like, just going to touch on the Primaris here, like, when when Big Rabbi fucking G made the Primaris, like, he had access to all 20 legions gene seed, from what I'm understanding from the lore. So there must be a way back for them. Like I have a joke that the two Lost Primarchs are female space like, are female legions that have been put away in hiding because we all know daddies love their daughters more than they love their sons. That's a true story. I love my son way less than my daughters. Uh, but like that video that I watched the earlier on today when I was on my lunch break, not when I was working. That was quite an interesting concept. That there was like this big, massive battle, and I really wish could remember the name of the species that they were fighting. But I think like one of the Primarchs were lost before uh, Alpharius was found, uh, and it was like a conversation between Malkador, Horus, and I can't remember the third Primarch now. basically, and I think Malcador basically says, like, basically stops Horus from mentioning the name. I just love that lore of what were the legions, what did they look like what Earth civilization were they based off of? Do you know what I mean? And I enjoy that for myself. Like, so what are you working on currently this now, Simon? What are you painting this now?
Just now, I've still got Mortarion hanging around. I've still got World Eater Clone Berserkers hanging around. I've still got Nids hanging around. I'm probably gonna, like I say, tomorrow, just build a Necron, and just paint that from the start. Just try and get my head back into it. I've always got multiple stuff going on, just because I get bored and then I switch to something else. Then I get bored and I switch to something else. So I'm always back and forth. I think that's the curse of having like so much stuff, is that you can, once you've got like, it's not like I've got a painted army, I've got like 7 or 8 painted armies, so I can add to those or start new stuff without like having a deadline, as it were. I think the last time I did a proper project was when I did my Chaos Demons, because I had an actual deadline. I was painting them for a slow grow league, so there was a reason to paint so many points every month. And that's it. That's the only time I can really get stuff done properly, is when I've got a deadline. If I haven't got a deadline, I'll just switch off and do something else. I get very, very bored of doing the same thing over and over and over again. So I'll just switch stuff up all the time.
And is there anything that's coming out in the near future that you're looking forward to painting?
I've got the models coming. I'll probably pick them up this weekend. So that's Imitate the Stormlord, and I can't remember what the other one's called. So it's a Chronomancer of some type, isn't it? So I've got those two. I'm quite looking forward to Imitate. That was the model that I'd seen when I said I wasn't going to buy any more GW stuff for a while, and then the previewed Imitate, and I was like, oh, I need that model, because I think it's really, really nice, Necron Lord. And I like his lore as well. So I've got those two that I'm looking forward to painting. As of anything else, there's nothing at the moment that I'm really looking forward to coming out. I tend to keep it like quite an open mind about something. The last thing that really got me excited was World Eaters, because I wanted a World Eaters faction for years and years and years and years. So that was the last time GW done a big release where I've gone, right, yeah, I want them. I want all of those. I want all of those, and I want them now. So I'm mildly interested to see what happens when what Fulgrim looks like. I want to see how he's going to differentiate from the 30k one, because the 30k one for me should have been the 40k one. That's how you imagine Fulgrim to look now. So I'm quite interested to see what Fulgrim will look like. But other than that, no, not really. There's nothing really I'm really, really looking forward to coming out. But I don't know what's around the corner. I've heard rumours there's going to be some new Custodes units. Obviously, if that's the truth, I think they're coming. I think the Custodes Codex is dropping next year, January, February time. So if that's true, then I'll be all in on that, because anything Custodes is my jam. I like painting them, and I love those models.
I'm just hoping that if they do the Custodies, that they'll be doing the Draenites at the same time, because like I managed to get a few Draenite models off of one of the guys from Donegal Dice Slingers, like my local gaming club up here in Donegal, and they're absolutely tiny compared to like a squat's bigger than fucking some of them. You know what I mean? And they're definitely due an overhaul.
I don't know whether they'll get a refresh in 10th or not. I don't think their codex is due for a while. I think it's Dark Angels next. Dark Angels and Custodes, I think, are the next two. And Orcs. Dark Angels, Custodes, and Orcs are set for the next quarter. We're just getting now Admech and Necrons, and obviously we've had Space Marines and Tyranids. I haven't seen yet where the Grey Knights are going to drop, but you would think they're going to get an upscale, because their Terminators now look really tiny compared to all other Terminators. Their
Oh,
Space
they
Marines
definitely do.
still know. Sorry?
They definitely do, and even the quality, not even the quality, the aesthetic of how they look is completely different to compared to how a Primaris or some of the Necron units look now. It's night and day, completely different.
Well, there's still their Space Marines are still the old heroic scale, so they're very squat. Their heads are bigger than their bodies, and their arms are too long and their legs are too short. Because that's what heroic scale used to be. They accentuate things like arms, heads, and feet over torsos, which is why you get the funny-looking Space Marines, which Grey Knights are the last faction still to have.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And just try to touch on the Inquisition. How do you feel that Inquisitions went since we started? Late September, late August, early September. Are you enjoying it yourself?
It's interesting. It's nice to get a nice mix of people. It's nice to hear everybody's stories, how they got into stuff, what they do personally, what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy. It's nice to contrast that even people who have got, I don't know, who are considered quite famous in the hobby we've had on, have got a very similar story to the person that's just got, I don't know, a couple hundred followers on Instagram. The stories are very similar. Where they've ended up is obviously different, but the way they started out is always similar. The way they got into things, it's nice to see similarities as well as differences in everybody's story. It's just interesting to hear people's background, isn't it? It's interesting to hear how somebody got involved in it because it's very niche what we do. It's not common. Even now, with it being more mainstream than it's ever been, you don't really meet a lot of people on a day-to-day basis if you just if you're just out and about on your day-to-day life who do this. So it's always very interesting to meet like-minded people and hear what they do, how they got into it, and also like how their families feel about it, how their other halves feel about it. Because I think you mentioned on a previous stream Warhammer Widows. And they will be a thing because it's like gym widows and everything else, isn't it? If you've got a partner who's really into something and you're not so into it, it's something you've got to put up with and cope with. And it's interesting because it's something that we sort of live and breathe. Everybody who's been on the Inquisition is on Instagram, so they've got more than a passing interest in it. They've got Instagram pages and YouTube channels and whatever else that they've dedicated to this hobby, and they literally will wake up talking about this hobby to people and go to bed talking to this hobby about people, and then in between doing all the talking about the hobby, they're doing the hobby. So it's something that it's interesting to find out everyone's background. I think it's been good, the amount of interest as well, and some people that have come on and sat with people and sat with us just to talk to us, because we are basically three blokes sitting in their living rooms, kitchens, wherever, just chatting to another person sitting in their house about plastic toy soldiers.
Yeah,
It's amazing the hype that can generate. I mean, the Duncan Road stream was obviously massive, and the Peachy stream had a lot of viewers, and Beard stream had a lot of viewers. So people, people get really, really into this, and we've had people on the equivalent of, I guess, rock stars in this genre. I mean, no one will know them out in the streets, but in our little niche, they're really big names, and they've come on and chatted to us for an hour, 2 hours. And I felt like, especially with the Peachy stream, that if I bumped into Peachy out, we'd be like, it'd be like bumping into a mate, not bumping into somebody who's semi-famous.
yeah. I mean, like what I've liked about the Inquisition, personally myself, is we have such a wide variety of people on. Like I had never heard of Chaos Lordbeard until we had him on, so I was then went to see what he did, and he obviously he's a very successful YouTube channel. We had Forges of Runes, who was a full contact cosplayer. We've had Mike Mons, who was a Twitch streamer. So it's not just painters and commissioned painters that we're getting on. We're getting on people from all over the hobby spectrum, which is, I think we fit in really nicely because we've managed to attract the bigger names, as you said, like the likes of the Peaches and the Graham McNeils. We've also had Ash on, we've had you on, you know, I mean, we've had the Nymph on, we've had uh, Paint Swear on. We've had such a wide variety of people and continuing to still book people for next year who are then surprised that, oh, why do you want me to come on? Like, what can I do about my story? Well, it's your hobby journey. We want to know why you get into it, how you get into it, and where you are now. Like, and that's what I enjoy hearing, as you said, that person's story and how they've like progressed within the hobby itself. You know what I mean? And it's
Hmm.
so enjoyable to hear these stories and just share that story with that person as well. And the fact that they're giving up their time on a Wednesday or a Sunday as well is absolutely phenomenal as well.
I think the main thing is that we don't forget where all this came from. I think what I've liked is seeing the older people, the older people who've been doing this for a long period of time, famous and non-famous. And Peachy falls into that category, and Gutlord falls into that category where, you know, we've been doing it on and off since you were kids and you've grown up around it. I think what my main problem is with how the hobby's pushed in general and how things are on Instagram. There's people who, um, without naming names, there's people who have been around this hobby for what I consider 5 minutes, and all of a sudden they're supposed to be the authority, or they're supposed to be the ones we all look up to, and it's like, not really, because there's more to Games Workshop than 3 or 4 years. Um, there's more to people's stories than, oh yeah, well I got into it over lockdown and then I opened this Instagram channel and then I had this YouTube channel and I was really, really famous and everybody loves me. And it's like, well, is that a story that I want to hear? It's a good story, but is it the only story that I want to hear? And no, it's not. So I like the fact that we've gone back. There's a lot of people on here who are OGs, as it were, uh, who've been there, especially with 40k, since the start. And the stories that we can tell, and the stories that they can tell, and to me, are a lot more interesting than, well, I I did this and it was really successful, and then everybody loved me. And I think that's part of the problem that I find with Instagram is it's like I want to go deeper than yeah, I did really well, and then James Workshop messaged me and said, do I want to be on their content creator program? And now I'm all of a sudden the person that you should talk to about Games Workshop. No, you're not really. I think a few years back when they did the 30k launch weekend, my point was, they invited loads and loads and loads. See, there's Alexis 98 starter you as a kid. Exactly. I'd rather hear that story than someone who's been in the hobby for a couple of years. Just because there's gonna be more memories there. There's gonna be more memories been made there. There's gonna be more of an emotional attachment for me to the hobby through someone who's been there since they were a child than someone who's got into it in the last 3 or 4 years. But the Horror Heresy weekend, they invited influencers and YouTubers, lots and lots and lots of them, and that's who you want. That's who people were queuing up to talk to. And now, no offense to any of those people that were there, but back in the day, when you went to a games day or a GW event, you were talking to games designers, you were talking to authors. The people like Graham McNeil, their equivalents back then, would be there to sign books and talk to you and spare time for you. And they're the people for me who are worth queuing up for. I'd rather queue up and speak to a Black Library author or a games designer or a Golden Demon level painter than someone who's got a YouTube channel or someone who's got X amount of followers on Instagram. They to me are like, are they the people that I look up to in this hobby? Are they the people who inspired me when I was a kid? No, they're not. Do I want to hear more stories about that than I want to hear stories about somebody who's been in here for the equivalent of 5 minutes? And I think that's part of what the Inquisition's done is we've spoken to those sort of people who've been there for a long time. Like Tom Green's just said, he started same year as 40k, so he's been 40 years in the hobby now. Um, he learned from his friends, not from this global network of talent. And that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, when I started out, as I said, I started out in a friend's caravan when I was about 11 years old, playing Dungeons and Dragons. There was about 6 of us. And Games Workshop at the time were still making models under license for Dungeons and Dragons. And that's when we started buying models for Dungeons and Dragons. My dad then mentioned that my godfather worked for Games Workshop. I was like, oh, Games Workshop. And then it went from there. So
Right, I would agree and disagree. I would agree and disagree with you to a certain extent. Like for myself, I'm just new to Warhammer. Like, I'm a Star Wars fan through and through. As I said, and as you touched on, I read a bad Star Wars book. But fair enough, yeah. But the community as a whole has been very good to me. Like, I have reached out to so many people and got help. And I think with all the tutorials and the channels out there, there is a lot of help. And I do understand what you're saying about influencers.
I'm not
People.
knocking the community. I'm not
Oh, I
knocking the
know.
community at
Yeah,
all.
and I don't understand what you're saying. But like, in the modern time that we're in this now, Games Workshop are going to chase people who, be it talented or not talented, to try and get.
I'm not even talking talent. I'm talking who would you rather speak to as a fan of this hobby? Who would you look up to as like we got Graham Neal on and you were fanboying out because he's your favourite author. Now, would you rather talk to more authors or would you rather talk to more influencers? I'm not knocking the community. The community is fantastic. I'm not knocking the people into the community. I'm not knocking people who've been successful in the hobby at all. What I'm saying to you is if you've spent 40, 50 pounds on a ticket to an event, who do you really want to speak to? Who do you really want to talk to and get experiences from? Your Graham McNeil's, your Dan Abnett's, or your Joe Blogs, who's got a big YouTube channel? Who do you really want to sit down and talk to? That's what I'm saying. And I think I've seen us change. I've seen the community change in that we're sort of losing touch with that and going more onto the influencer side. And I understand why GW are doing that. You've just touched on why GW are doing that. But for me, as a person who's been into this for a long, long time, I'd rather talk to that person who wrote that book that I couldn't put down, or I'd rather talk to the person that designed that game that I'm always playing all the time. They're more interesting people to me, is what I'm saying. And we've had an opportunity to get those more interesting people on the Inquisition, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you or saying saying that you're wrong, but like one of my one of the guests that kind of stands out for me as well is Dave versus Shark. Like, he hadn't touched Warhammer at all up until lockdown, so I enjoy hearing those people like who have recently came and are now painting, and he's now doing a wee bit of commission work because he's a talented guy. I just love how the Inquisition has just grown, and like we've got people who, if I reach out to somebody and ask them to come on, like, they're like, "Are you sure you want me to come on? What can I bring them?" Like, well, you're bringing you. Like, we're interested in people with the likes of you. Like, we're not chasing people that have got 50,000 subscribers or 50,000 followers. Like, a lot of the people that we've had on have only got a couple of thousand or even a couple of hundred. Like, I've only got 480 followers or 580 followers. And that does. I'm not here for the followers. I'm just here to learn about people's stories, and that's what I think the Inquisition does brilliant, is that we can bring that community even closer together to people that have helped us out in the past. Or like, I didn't know you up until last year, and now look at us, we're doing, I would say, a semi-successful podcast that's getting quite a good views. And as Mike Moon said to us back in October, if you've got 8 people watching you, that's like having 8 people in your house listening to you speak. He said that's massive, and that is. Do you know what I mean? And I just I love what we're doing. Like, especially when Casey's late, even tonight, picking football over the Inquisition. Bad times.
Well, Crystal Palace as well, so it's not even proper football.
I know.
But I don't know. I'm not knocking the community, and it's nice to hear everybody's different stories.
Oh yeah.
I just think that I think. I mean, it's the way the world's going. Social media is the way the world's going. I mean, what can I say? I'm sitting here with 13,000 followers on Instagram, so I can't really sit here and knock it. But what I'm saying is that for me, the more interesting chats when we get are always going to be the people who were involved in the. I like to learn how companies were made. I like to learn how things got to the point that they are. I mean, there's a few people in this chat who've just said they've been in the hobby since the 80s or 40 years. They know what GW was like then compared to what GW is like now. And I think if we all sat down and had a conversation, we'd agree that we preferred GW back then than we prefer GW now. Just because it feels so much more corporate and not as personal. When I was a kid and I went to a games day and I met people like Jervis Johnson and I met people like Rick Priestley, Anthony Ackland, John Blanche, the Perry twins. When I met all these people, they were like my childhood heroes because these people I saw in White Dwarf.
Yeah.
These are the people that wrote the games, and they were just so down to earth, so approachable. They'd sign whatever you had on with you. They'd sit and take time to talk to you, and I think some of that's been lost now because Games Workshop's become really faceless. The last people that we know of, people like Peachy before he left and Suggs before she left. We don't really, and obviously we know Darren Latham's around, but other than that, you could be in Warhammer World tomorrow and get the writer of one of your favourite codexes could walk past you and you wouldn't know because they don't give them credit anymore. They aren't people anymore. They're part of a corporate entity, and I think that's sad because part of my favourite memories were playing Warhammer Fantasy Battle with the Perry twins and John Blanche, because they were there to play demonstration games on Games Day, and you could go and talk to them, roll dice with them, and it was really exciting because I was a kid, and these were like my miniature designers and an artist that I really admired, and they were talking to me, and I was playing a game with them. And that's sort of been lost, and I think that's quite sad. And now the only faces we have got are people in social media, and which is fine. I mean, we've had some great people on in social media. Pitchy was brilliant. Beard was great. And I do enjoy talking to them as well, but I'd love to get a Games Workshop games designer on here and talk to him, but there's no way we could because one, we don't know who they are, and two, they're under the NDA. But I think that'd be brilliant to talk to somebody who designed the game and find out their thought process and what went into it and all that side of things.
I mean, I just in chat here, Arby Tom Green has made an absolutely stonking comment, which 100% agree with you. As he says here, it was cool back then, but I can't deny how much my skills have grown since the global community has grown and been so willing to share their talents with us all. And that's 100%. Like, I would reach out if I'm having a bit of a struggle with a character. I would reach out to the Sassy Nerdwin, who's a Spanish guy. I'd reach out to Richard in Inferno Miniatures. I would reach out to anybody apart from Watergate Studios. Wee bit of shit there. But like the community and even SJ Paintswear, like the community is just so good to help out people. Just that wee bit of, oh, this is what you should do, or this is how I managed to achieve that. And that's what I love about the community. And that's just why, one of the reasons why I kind of put it towards you to do this as Inquisition was to give back to the community that's helped me. Like, I think my painting just came on a lot in a year.
I'm not talking again. I'm not really the social media. The social media side has had pluses as well as minuses because it's social media. That's what it is. And the good part of it is that is the fact that people can share their work and talk to each other about how they painted something and pass on tips with each other. But I'm not talking about the community. I'm saying that. For me, the GW's become much more impersonal, and the fact that we now accept that and go, well, they're just a business, which they are, but the fact that we accept that and just go, that's okay then. Please charge me another £30 for a tiny plastic model which costs you £3 to make, because I think that's fine, because you're a business. Don't pay your employees properly, and don't credit anybody for anything that they write or design or paint for you, and we're all okay with that. And I don't think we should. I'd like to get back to people being credited for their work. I'd like to know who wrote that codex. I'd like to know who painted that miniature. And I think that's the reason why we've got people like Thugs and Peachy doing what they're doing now, because they felt like they were getting they weren't people anymore. They were just part of a corporate entity, and they wanted to be them, which is great for them. And I'd like, it's just sad that we've got to that point now. It's like Tom's just said, GW could be accused of pleasing shareholders more than us models and games, for sure. But the people who make up the community tend to be great folk. That's exactly what I'm saying, really, is I think GW do care more about their shareholders than their customers. But the thing that keeps us all around here is because the community is as good as it is, that everybody is really, really friendly. Everybody knows my DMs are always open. Everyone knows they can always DM me, and they'll always get a response from me, because I always make sure I answer stuff. I try and answer as many comments as I can as well, or at least like the comments. I want people to know that I've spotted them and that I know they exist. And I hope that even if I get really successful follower wise, I hope I'll always be able to do that, because I'm giving back what they give me. I steal people's ideas like they probably steal mine, and vice versa. Well, it's not stealing, you're sharing, really. But if anyone asks me how I painted something, I'm quite happy to tell them, as long as they ask me in a polite manner. So the community is the plus side of it. But I think the community's there in spite of Games Workshop, not because of it, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it totally does. I'm really. Warpgate Studios has sent a request to be on the video, so I've accepted it just to see what he says, and then we can kick him out, because there he is there, the old spectacle wearing yank himself.
What is that, TJ? What is that Christmas jumper? Oh, it's Elf. I wonder what the hell that was then. I thought it was like Che Guevara or something on his Christmas jumper.
No. We don't have that in America, sir. No. Daz is.
Why ever not?
Thanks, Daz. Nice to see you, mate. How are
They
you?
scared Daz off on his birthday as well.
I know that's it. This is my logic behind inviting Warpgate Studios off. You know, they always play that really shitey dance, that really shitey bit of music that clears the dance floor at the end of a disco to get everybody out. This is why I brought Warpgate Studios on, just to clear everybody out.
I would
so
like to say your viewers are going up as we speak.
It's true, actually. The viewers have gone up since he's come on. Although Paint's Party Scotch said he's going to the pub with Daz now.
I'm just wondering what's going on with your hairline. That haircut is getting higher and higher every week.
Mate, it's because I've got less and less hair. It keeps like getting thinner and thinner, so I have to keep getting higher and higher.
So I went to my haircut yesterday, right? And my wife was getting a tattoo last Friday as well. And I was at my barber, says my tattoo guy, I was like, I think I might shave my head at some point, because I'm thinning at the top. I've got a bit of a bald patch. He went, no, it's not that you have a bit of a bald patch. You do have a bit of a bald patch. So he says, what to do is grow your beard back and shave your head. So seeing January, the hair's getting shaved off, then I'll be a nude nut with a beard. And apparently, I'm going to look sexy as fuck.
You're going to look like a jihadi. You're going to have a full beard going, bald head. It's going to be wonderful.
Can't wait. I don't give a fuck about my hair anyway. Do you know what I mean? The wife's going to be raging though, but who cares? You can always divorce me. You know what I mean? How are you, Warpy?
I'm right, mate. Not too bad. It's pissing down with rain here on the west coast of the States. It's been pissing down for the last 3 days. We've got like a flood warning of like the whole month of December's rain we're having in like 4 days here. So everywhere's pretty flooded, and yeah, it's wet. It's just like being in England, really. Or should I say, but it's like being up in Stoke or the Midlands or where you're at, Simon. It's like, it's just rain, wet, windy.
I bet it's still warmer than here though.
It's about 60 degrees. I don't know what that is in Celsius. I don't do Celsius anymore.
Oh,
Sorry. But
it's still warmer
If
than
it didn't
here.
get any worse, it just got worse. It wasn't your identity.
I don't do proper numbers anymore. I do Fahrenheit.
it's been 14 years. So it's probably about 15, 16, whatever that is, roughly, I think. So maybe 15.
Yeah, it's much warmer than here.
Yeah. But,
Yeah,
so
like I always said,
well,
I would never say what's the crack or how's it going, sir. And it just slowly you've become indoctrinated to it. Just slowly manipulates you, and then before you know it, you're saying, "Hey, what's the crack, boy?" And that's something pure Irish and Donegal with a Scottish accent. It's ridiculous.
did you live in America for some time, Simon? How
Yeah,
long?
Midwest, Minnesota.
Okay, so my wife's from Mankato, just south of the Twin Cities, and we spent pretty much last year in Wisconsin, just over the border from Minnesota. And dude, the summers there are gorgeous, really, really lovely. Winters,
Proper
absolutely,
seasons though. It's
yeah,
proper seasons.
yeah, it is. It's like England, like 100 years ago, pretty much. It's like
It's
proper season.
like it's like when first time I ever went there was 2007, and it was 1st of December, or was it the 30th of November? It was the end of November, it was in December. And I remember it was probably about 4 or 5 degrees here when I left the UK. And it was you can't get a direct flight to Minneapolis from Manchester. You have to come through the main route through Schiphol. So I was traveling for about 22 hours total, and I got there on the because of the layover between flights. And I got into Minneapolis airport at about 7 o'clock their time. And I remember opening the doors to the airport, and it hit me, and it was probably about -8, -9. And so that hit you. And then they had the first snow of the year on the first day I was there. And it was like this. It was like snowfall when I was a kid, because it wasn't like now we get, I don't know, 3 or 4 centimeters, and it's like
Yeah,
the whole UK comes to a stop, and they had, I think it was probably about 6 or 7 inches overnight.
yeah,
And you got up in the morning and go, whoa,
yeah,
what is this?
yeah, yeah.
And then you
I
go
re-
again in August, and it's like getting up for 100 degrees, and the heat's taking your breath away. It's
yeah,
unbelievable.
it's gorgeous. It's a nice place. There's not a lot of people there because it's so extreme. Like the winter,
Yeah.
not a lot of people want to be in that kind of cold. But the lowest it got in Fahrenheit, I don't know what it is in Celsius, but it was -45. That was the coldest it got last winter. And I was like, I'm done. I'm so done. I went out to like snow blow the driveway and get it cleared, and I did it 3 times in a day, right, to get, because it was snowing so much, and my beard, I was sweating, but the sweat
It's
was
frozen.
freezing on my forehead and on my eyebrows and on my beard. All of the water droplets were just freezing on it, and I literally had to warm up. My face was starting to get super bad, and my wife was like, "No, you got to come in, otherwise you're going to start turning a different colour." So I was like, "All right,
Once it
okay."
gets to -30, I think it is, that's when it freezes running water.
Right, lads,
So
I need to go because my back is in absolute agony here. I've done my back in and I'm in pretty strong painkillers. I need to go and take the painkillers. So I'm going to call it quits there. And if you two want to like seduce each other, why don't you start off a chat and I'll maybe join that later. But I need to call time in Inquisition there because my back is absolutely broke and I need to go and get some
You
painkillers.
could do. I'm going to start up another
Okay?
chat anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, by all means,
Right.
all
Simon,
right,
if you
mate.
want to
Yeah,
jump
no
in,
worries.
mate, you're welcome.
Okay,
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on, Simon. Thanks for joining us, Warpy. I will get Luke to upload this onto YouTube, and I'll put the links out as usual. And then on Sunday we have Chris Tester, an audible narrator and voiceover actor. He'll be on and wrapping up the Legend series for 2023. And then next week we've got Daz Moll, if I've not already rebooked somebody else. And then the week after we have Infernal Miniatures. And then I think that's us for the year. Thanks for joining everybody to the two streams. Have a safe night, and I'll